Well, yes, the season literally just began. But with 100 games now being played across the league through the first roughly week and a half of the 2025-2026 regular season thus far, the NBA is officially on one. Typically, defense should be ahead of the curve early on in the season as teams are shaking off rust or working on the integration of new pieces, etc. But who the hell am I kidding? What defense? How does 118.3 points per game league-wide scoring average through 100 games grab you? And is that high, you might be wondering? How about the second highest ever in NBA history? The current record of 118.8 for an entire season came way back in the 1961-62 season, and perhaps you recall that year, when Elgin Baylor dropped 38 points, 19 rebounds, and 5 assists per game to finish a distant fourth in league-wide MVP voting. A year where Oscar Robertson averaged the first triple-double in league history, and oh yeah, that season Wilt Chamberlain averaged 50 points per game for an entire season. In that year alone, Chamberlain dropped 28 50-point games. And for reference, Michael Jordan had 31 50 spots for his entire career. Yeah, this year is blasting out of the gates and off to a commensurate pacing as that season, as they are separated by a mere half point per game currently. It should therefore come as no surprise that we are seeing some absolutely gaudy averages and scoring proliferations at this point of the young season. The reigning league MVP and scoring leader for last season, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, is off to an even better start this season, averaging 36 points per game, 6 assists, and 5.5 rebounds on 51% shooting from the field, which would be the same amount of points to the exact 10th for Austin Reeves, who is also averaging 36 points per game, but he is adding 8.5 assists and nearly 7 rebounds per game while shooting 57% from the field. Yes, Austin Reeves is currently sitting above SGA in player efficiency rating, box plus minus, value over replacement, and win shares. And of course, Reeves has had that spotlight in La La Land all to himself, thanks to both the marquee stars there currently out with injuries. LeBron, of course, has yet to even make his season debut this year with that sore sciatica, while Luka is out for at least the next week with a finger sprain and leg contusion. But Doncic erupted out of the gates in the first 2 games we saw from him as he posted a 46 point per game, 11.5 assists, and 8.5 rebound average through those 2. The 92 points in the first 2 Lakers games, meanwhile, of this season just shattered Jerry West's 56-year-old record. Are you starting to get the big picture here? A lot of stuff is happening currently that hasn't happened since the 1960s or before, though you don't have to go back quite that far to contextualize some of these record-breaking early season pacings, and I of course am talking about Nikola Jokic, who just became the 3rd player in NBA history to open a season with 3 consecutive triple-doubles, joining, yes, Oscar Robertson from, yes, 1961-62, but Russell Westbrook also did it, and he did it just in that 2020-2021 season. Jokic is now averaging 20 points per game on 54% shooting, down nearly 10 points per game from last season to this point, but that is also while he is only averaging 13.5 shots per game. He is, meanwhile, leading the league currently in assists and is 2nd league-wide in rebounds. Speaking of Jokic, it was in the 2021-2022 season when he set the all-time NBA record for single-season player efficiency rating at 32.85. And at this point of this young NBA season, through 100 games played, there are currently 3 players sitting above his pacing from that season. way above, including Giannis Antetokounmpo, Luka Doncic, and Victor Wembenyama. And that is while the aforementioned Austin Reeves is just 0.2 of a point behind the pacing from Jokic's record-breaking season. We have, meanwhile, seen 4 50-point games already this season by 4 different players. Of course, there was one usual suspect in Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who dropped a double nickel in double overtime, albeit while attempting 26 free throws in that game. You then had not-so-usual suspects in Lauri Markkanen, Austin Reeves, and Aaron Gordon. Seriously, someone cut the NBA season off right now. It's drunk as hell. The Miami Heat, just a few nights ago, scored 86 points in the first half. They beat the Grizzlies 146-114, and putting up 114 points to lose by 32 is absolutely wild. The Heat, speaking of them, are averaging 127 points per game after their first week and a half this year and are not leading the league in team scoring currently. In fact, they're not even second right now. The 5th highest scoring team, meanwhile, in the league at the moment is the Philadelphia 76ers, and they are dropping 126 points a night despite getting only 2 games out of Joel Embiid to the tune of only 12 points per game on the season for him, while Podcast P, Paul George, is yet to suit up in a single game. No problem at all, though, because Tyrese Maxey and VJ Edgecombe are off to historic starts. Their combined 182 points is the most for a starting backcourt through a team's first 3 games of a season since the 1970-71 league year when such tracking initially began. Edgecombe, by the way, is tracking to become the best rookie since 1984. Perhaps you might remember who that was, since it was the greatest player of all time. Well, VJ is currently sitting at 25 points per game, 6 assists, and 6 rebound averages, which would be the highest scoring average since GOAT Jordan's 28 per night average over 40 years ago. And you know what? It does feel dirty to not at least mention some tiny nugget about defense. Victor Wembenyama, the freak alien, who is currently averaging 31 points and 13 rebounds per game, is also getting nearly 5 blocks per night in leading his Spurs to a 4-0 record. While he has a long way to go to that league MVP, he is an absolute lock to win Defensive Player of the Year in what will be a unanimous selection, so long as he plays the minimum amount of games required to be eligible for that award. So a generational freak, near 7'8" defensive anchor, is helming the defensive side of the ball with other elite complementary perimeter defensive pieces, and I guess therefore it makes sense they are leading the league by a lot in points allowed, giving up only 104.5 a night. But the fact that if you go back just about 20 years ago to the 2004 NBA season, well, that mark would have been the 2nd highest league-wide, and that likely tells you all you need to know. Sure, some of this is a result of all of that skill that pundits and supporters of the current game would tell you all about, but it primarily has to do with a glaring lack of defense on full display to this point, though many out there simply won't care and will instead be enamored by the eye-popping point totals being put up currently. 50 points used to be an abnormality, an elite total. Now, though, it seems like, in many cases, we've reached a point where it's a foregone conclusion. Though there is still one pretty safe bet this season, we are not going to be seeing anyone drop 82 points in a single game. And that 81 spot by Kobe nearly 20 years ago came in a season where, based on the current scoring rate to this point of this young NBA season, was over 20 points per game less league-wide than it is today. But hey, there are levels to this. And even among a historic explosion to points and stat totals this year, some players still just stand out above the rest.